Welcome to The Big Rich Show. This podcast will focus on conversations with friends and acquaintances within the four-wheel drive industry. Many of the people that I will be interviewing, you may know the name, you may know some of the history, but let's get in depth with these people and find out what truly makes them a four-wheel drive enthusiast. So now's the time to sit back, grab a cold one, and enjoy our conversation.
Whether you're crawling the Red Rocks of Moab or hauling your toys to the trail, Maxxis has the tires you can trust for performance and durability. 4 wheels or 2. Maxxis tires are the choice of champions because they know that whether for work or play, for fun or competition, Maxxis tires deliver. Choose Maxxis. Tread victoriously.
Why should you read 4Low magazine? Because 4Low magazine is about your lifestyle, the four-wheel drive adventure lifestyle that we all enjoy. Rock crawling, trail riding, event coverage, vehicle builds, and do-it-yourself tech, all in a beautifully presented package. You won't find 4Low on the newsstand rack, so subscribe today and have it delivered to you. On today's episode of Conversations with Big Rich, we have Keith Bailey. You may know Keith. He is out of Alabama. He is one of the guys, I don't know if you'd call them cronies or the crew for Ultimate Adventure. If you've ever been to Grey Rock outside of Birmingham, you have probably met Keith, and he's the owner of Off-Road Connection, and we're going to sit and learn all about Keith. Keith, thank you for coming on board today.
Good morning. Well, thanks for having me. Appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah, it's great. I haven't seen you in quite a while. I think the last time was probably at one of our Dirt Riot races there at Grey Rock.
I believe it. I believe you're correct.
But let's go ahead and jump right in. And, where were you born and raised?
Rich, I was born right here, right in Birmingham, Alabama, Jefferson County. Just a few years ago, it seems like.
It's amazing how time flies, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Doesn't stop.
So, growing up there, did you grow up in the city or was it more rural?
It's a rural town outside of Birmingham, not far. Grew up in Gardendale. Went to school, graduated in Gardendale. Went to a trade school as well. Started off-roading, or actually being around four-wheel drives before I was able to drive. I guess I was 15, hanging out with some guys that was older than me that had big trucks, and it kind of started from there.
So when you were in school, this is a question I ask everybody, and we can expand into it if you wish. Were you studious? Were you athletic? Were you outdoorsy and did your own thing?
I definitely wasn't athletic. I did play sports. I think I was more there for support for my better teammates. I was definitely outdoorsy. I loved to hunt. Like I said, riding around in the old coal mines, reclaimed land area that surrounds Birmingham. Did a lot of things outdoors.
Hunting and fishing?
Yes. I love to fish. Yeah, I really got into fishing when my parents bought a place on the lake, Smith Lake. It's about an hour from where I grew up. And I guess that was the start of my really enjoying fishing, really getting into it.
Was it the act of catching the fish, or was it the act of just kind of being able to zone out?
Well, I guess, and to this day, I'm still fishing. I'm not a catcher by no means. So I still call it fishing. So every now and then I get lucky and pick the right tackle or the right day, but I enjoy it. I enjoy water, moving water, creek, rivers, anything like that is enjoyable.
So if you're a fisherman and not a catcherman, does that mean you do not have one of those sparkly bass boats?
That's exactly right. I do not have one of those. I like the closest thing I have to that is a sit on top kayak.
There you go.
Which I really enjoy that. It reminds me of off-roading when you're going down a moving current, picking your line and just enjoying the outdoors.
Awesome. Yeah, we got a lot out here in the Corpus Christi Bay area. There's a lot of fishermen that use those kayaks for fishing. I myself stick to larger boats just for the fact of I don't want to fall in and then have to try to get my ass back out and on the boat.
I understand. Yes. Then it becomes swimming.
Yes, swimming
instead of fishing.
Or survivaling.
Exactly.
So let's talk about those early days romping around, 15, running with some older guys that have pickup trucks. Was it, kind of, like just climbing hills, or did you guys, those reclamation areas with the coal mines? Or you guys, actually, it was strip mining, wasn't it, most of that part?
It was strip mining, yep. Mm-hmm. Actually, when we were doing that, when I was 15, 16, it was big trucks, big tires, deep mud holes, and just kind of running around. And you couldn't do a whole lot because not any of us had lockers. We didn't even know what a locker was,
right?
Or posi traction. But we spent a lot of nights digging ourselves out of the mud hole we just tried to go through.
That's all part of it, though.
It was. It definitely turned me against going mud riding, for sure.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of wet soil.
No, not at all. Not anymore, anyway. But that seemed like that was the thing to do, you know.
Right. Getting those frame rails filled with mud, and if you ever have to cut one open, you're cutting through rock.
That's right. Exactly. Making bricks.
There you go. So, what was your first vehicle that you drove? Maybe not the first one with a driver's license. Was there any vehicles before you had a driver's license that you got to bash around at all?
Well, my buddies let me drive their trucks, but that was about it. Back then it was big trucks, big tires, square body Chevrolets, early model Fords. And everybody named their truck. They had there was a ditch digger, and there was a night crawler, and there was a brown bear. I mean, it was a big thing around here. And we would go to the mud races, as a group, as a club, kind of.
Okay.
But my first vehicle, actually, my first four-wheel drive was a CJ5. It was a late model 76, 304, 3-speed, fender well headers. That's when I really started enjoying the off-roading or the trail riding.
Right. And did you work on parents' rigs, or when you were younger, or did you find things to take apart and put back together? How did you get your interest in the mechanical side of it?
Watching my dad, or helping my dad.
Okay.
I have two older brothers along with two older sisters, and watching my dad help my brothers with their cars, holding the flashlight. Boy.
You really learn a lot about flashlights, don't you?
You do. And I remember it's just plain as day, me just being distracted, and that flashlight not even pointing where he was working. That's that famous words, right here where I'm working. But I guess that was it. Dad, he didn't take anything to get it repaired. He did it himself, and I guess that's where I got that initiative to Well, I don't know how, but I guess we'll learn, you know.
Right. Now, did you spend any time in the military?
I did not.
You didn't.
I did not. I came close. I got laid off from a fab shop, and I decided that was when I was going. So I filled out all the paperwork, and I was scheduled to come back and take a test, and then I got a job, and I didn't go take a test. So I came real close, and sometimes I wish I would have not found that job and continued with that, but I miss that. I miss not having that experience, that growing up.
Right. I think for a lot of us that are close in the same age group, I know I'm older than you, but there's there wasn't a lot of need for the military. Vietnam was behind us, no more draft, no real world conflicts going on. There was no pressing need. And so a lot of us ended up, working or going to college or, just getting married younger, whatever. And it's interesting that, then all of a sudden you get to the guys that are in their 40s and they're back in the military.
Yep, I think you're right on with that.
Right.
For sure. I have a lot of good friends in the military, and I respect their decision for sure. It's great to go through that. I had some that was suggested to go to the military by a judge, and they've done they've done real well in their career.
That's that's a good way of putting that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So growing up in that mid South Alabama area, there's a lot of lakes, a lot of rivers. There was a lot of strip mining going on, and in a fairly rural. I mean, that Gardendale area is still pretty rural. Has it been a big change for you watching it change from the the 70s up to nowadays?
Oh, for sure, for sure. We the ability or the able to just drop off any paved road onto an old trail or access to some large land areas which were owned by the coal companies. All of that's gone away. It's now the roads are still there, the areas are still there for the most part, and but the hunting clubs have taken over to police it and to and it's stopped a lot of that, which there's a lot of trash throwing, a lot of dumping, of illegal dumping on those roads. So the hunting clubs have stopped that by gating them off. But it has changed that part of it for sure. But the off-road parks in the area has taken a place of that type wheeling. Right.
And Gray Rock is one of those.
Yes. Gray Rock came along at the best time. I'm sure it's not the very first one in Alabama, but it sure was. It was right at the beginning of them.
And that's Tony and Myra Cousins' property, correct?
Correct. Yes. Tony and I had been. He was one of the guys that had one of those big trucks years ago in high school. It was a Toyota, but it was a big Toyota. I've been knowing Tony and friends with Myra and both of them for years. And and it was right. His property, or Gray Rock, was right in the middle of all the coal, reclaimed coal land, which made excellent off-roading.
Right, because they'd go in and they'd strip it all out, and then they'd push it all back in after they got the coal out of there. Correct?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. And years ago, they didn't reclaim as like they do now, and a lot of it was just left, a lot of piles of overburden, which become really actually good trails and obstacles. So it really makes for a good off-road park.
Well, excellent. Let's talk about your life, um, getting into the wheeling. Where did you meet your wife at?
Actually, I don't know if I should say this, but
Uh
I
oh.
met my wife at those places you're told never to meet your wife at.
Ah.
We met at a country a bar, um, Western dancing, Western bar was real popular, and we met there one night. So, and been having fun ever since.
Excellent.
Hmm.
Sometimes that works out.
It does. It it really has. For coming on 26 years now, we've been married.
Excellent. Glad you found a good one, or one that
That's
would
right.
tolerate you. Is that what it is?
Well, I knew I had something going for me. So when I went to her house for the first time to pick her up, there was a Jeep in the garage, and she had never mentioned that, and I had no idea. So um, that was a plus right then.
Absolutely. It it's amazing if you share hobbies or interests. It really helps a relationship go a lot farther.
Oh, no doubt, no doubt. I run into a lot of guys a lot of customers and guys at the shop, that has the hobby, but the wife completely is the opposite, and I just couldn't imagine they're having to hide money and pull out cash, fold it up in really small parts of their billfold to pay for things, and uh, I'm very fortunate to have uh, a wife, a friend, and a daughter that really enjoys off-roading.
So when you got into off-roading and you were out of school, um, did you do any trade school work, or
Did
how did you jump in? Okay.
I went I went to vocational school in Gardendale. I went to the high school for a half a day, and then you could go to the trade school the other half, morning or evening. And I took sheet metal and fabrication at the vocational school in Gardendale, and the last 2 years there, you could actually co-op. You actually could leave school and go to work, and I did that, and went to actually it wasn't sheet metal. It was a full-blown fab shop where I learned to do a lot of fab work, a lot of welding, layout work. So that's how I got started in, I guess, the fab part of the off-road world.
And what were you building at that fab shop?
It was a number of different things. That company, they did it all. They did a lot of aluminum work, a lot of large, heavy iron structure, a lot of, I guess, exhaust, industrial type exhaust.
Okay.
But during lunch and in the mornings, I was making Nerf bars and bumpers and and different things like that.
Utilized your time.
I did. I sure did. I got there early, stayed late, and worked through lunch sometimes on building something for my CJ.
Nice. And so, how long did you had that? Have you had that CJ, or do you still have it?
Well, my first one, my CJ5, I actually traded it in on the one I have now in 1984. I guess I had that black CJ5 for 2 years and completely worked on it every day from front to back, top to bottom, and got it all nice and fixed up. And my dad suggested for me to go get a new one. And we traded it in that night. He co-signed with me. And I left there with a 1984 CJ7.
V8.
It was not. Matter of fact, it was a 2.5.
2.5. Oh my God.
Yeah. It 2.5 with low back seats. It didn't even have a radio. And as far as carpet, it only had a piece that went across the hump in the front. It did have a hard top though, and had some nice wheels and tires on it. I think some 31s.
Biggins.
Big ones. Big ones. But it didn't take long to realize that 2.5 wasn't going to cut it. And a friend of mine, he'd happened to I think he slung a rod in his, and he wanted to buy one. So out come the 2.5, and then went a 4.2.
Okay.
So, and the modifications started, and I don't know if they've stopped since '84.
Is a vehicle ever really done?
I don't think so. This 8 months ago, I was preparing to go on a UA, and I was laying under it doing something. I was like, you would think I'd be done by now, but I still enjoy it though.
Well, that's amazing. You're going on, damn, that's almost 40 years now owning that Jeep.
Yeah, there's not too many stock parts. I think the dash and the VIN number, the paint code. There's a few things left.
So how did you get involved with having your own shop? What was the process? When did you go from like fab shop or working for others to just going, okay, I'm going to do this on my own?
Well, I started. So there was a group of us that had Jeeps, high school friends, and I started buying Jeeps that were in backyards or beside the garages, and I collected up a large amount of used Jeep parts, all models, and I would put a little advertisement. And this was at my house. This is at the house I was in at that time. So the basement was like a salvage yard. But I started advertising Jeep parts for sale in a little local paper called the Thrifty Nickel.
Right.
You could put ads in there. I think it was free. But I started and got a pretty good clientele that way. And later on, opened up a little small commercial, very small. It was actually a game room on the side of a convenience store. This little storefront, I guess you could say.
Okay.
And I moved a lot of the parts up there, the ones that were small and it could fit. And then had a canopy out front that where the gas pumps used to be, because the convenience store now was a consignment store for clothing. And heck, that's when I got my first business license. And I did that part-time for a long time. I would open up after work. I'd open up on Saturdays and just kept building a clientele.
And approximately what time period was that?
That was around 90, 91, late, yeah, about 91. I advertise that I've been open since 92. So there was a lot of years there without business license, I guess you could say. But once I got that storefront, naturally I had to, or I did. So that was about 91, early 92.
Okay. And was it called Off-Road Connection then?
Actually, it wasn't. It was called the Jeep Connection.
Okay.
And I knew the trademark part of that, but I was like, who is going to care about me in this little small storefront? So I named it the Jeep Connection, and that lasted until one of the lawyers from Jeep came and told me differently. At that time, I was going on a lot of Jeep jamborees, and I had my little magnetic stickers on my Jeep. And I guess that's where I exposed myself to the Jeep Corporation.
You exposed the name of your company.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes.
Because saying you exposed yourself, could
No,
lead people down
no.
the wrong path.
Yeah, for sure. No, not at all. Yeah, they and then they were cool about it. They said it's kind of like a catch-22 for them. They love the advertisement, but if they do not protect it, like all trademarks, they'll lose it. So I went from the Jeep connection to the off-road connection.
Was that a hard transition in that area, or were you established enough to where, people caught on real quick?
It was that. I don't remember any difficulties from changing. I think it was such early on it didn't matter.
And then, how many locations did you have until you get to where you're at now?
Well, I had that one was in actually. So the first one was, I guess you could say, was my house, my basement. The second one was in Gardendale at the arcade connected to the convenience store. That was in Gardendale, and then now I'm in Fultondale.
Okay.
I was doing the work out there in Gardendale. I was having to do my installs under the canopy where the gas pumps were, which wasn't anything major at that time, but if I couldn't do it there, I was doing it at the house. And then the move from Gardendale to Fultondale was actually a garage. It was a 4-bay garage, a little small showroom or storefront, and that's where I am still.
At what point did you get married along that process?
Well, almost 26 years ago, I was still doing it part-time. I was still leaving after work, going to my full-time job, going and opening up when Debbie and I met. And then actually, she gave me the confidence to quit and go full-time. So
very nice.
And she did. She gave me that confidence, and she still does. She still encourages me on all kind of things. So if I had a calculator, I could tell you about what year that was. But Debbie and I only dated 6 months before we got married. So it wasn't long after we met. We got married, and then shortly after that, I quit my sheet metal job, my fabricating job, and then went full time.
Well, it's nice to have a woman like Debbie behind you, knowing, seeing that, you had the potential to do more and encouraging you to do so.
Oh yeah, for sure. There's no doubt. That's the only way, to succeed, I would think, is to have or surround yourself. It just not only have to be a wife, but it works out a lot better if it is your wife, for sure.
Right. Let's talk about how you got involved with Ultimate Adventure.
Oh man. Let's see. That was it was probably early 03.
Okay.
Myself and a few friends had taken a trip out to Moab, and we were at the bottom of Potato Salad Hill, and we were taking turns trying it and watching it. And there was a photographer from Peterson's up there taking pictures. And it wasn't long till he came down and introduced himself, and that was Trent McGee. And we became friends. It seemed like instantly. He got along really well with the guys, with us, and then not long he left the magazine and moved to Louisiana.
Right, he went to work for Superlift.
For Superlift.
Yes.
Yep. So he was really close to home then, and after that, he came up and wheeled with us on the weekends, and we got to know each other and became better friends. So in 03, he called in 03 and asked if I'd be interested in hosting the UA. UA was really young then. I think there may only have been one actually official and maybe another one that was unofficial in '03. So he and Rick came through, and I took him around Gray Rock, which was not really Gray Rock then. It was an area that you could wheel with permission, and then they left and went on and routed out the rest of the adventure. So that was my beginnings. They started in Tellico, North Carolina, right outside Murphy, and I went there along with Sam, a friend of mine, Sam Gillis. We went up there and helped guide or tail gun or mid gun the UA in Tellico that year. I met Fred Williams for the first time at Tellico. Tom Boyd, I met him at the first time. And then after that day of wheeling in Tellico, which was a very long day, we traveled back to Alabama to wait for their arrival here. That was my beginnings of the UA, is meeting all those guys. Rick Payway, of course, but that was the start of what I thought would never continue, and I'm still able to go even now.
That's pretty awesome. That's kind of one of those punch list or life goal type things for a lot of wheelers out there, is to get on a UA trip.
For sure. A little story prior to '03, Trent McGee asked me to ride with him on the UA in '02. And I think it was '02, maybe in '01. And it was going to be out west, Midwest somewhere. And our daughter had been born. And as far as my work, it was just me up there, maybe along with another hand. And I just couldn't leave for a week to go attend a UA. And I said that was probably going to be my only opportunity to ever go on a UA. And that was prior to '03. And then in '03, Trent came here, and I hadn't missed one since.
So let's talk about, since you guys get to go to a lot of different areas. Some of them are parks, some of them are not parks. It might be just private property, or even like what we call BLM, Bureau of Land Management, managed government properties out here in the West. What are some places that really stand out?
Ooh, there's so many. I guess growing up and reading the magazines, the year we went to the Rubicon Trail and Fordyce was a huge check mark. That was something I, read about, dreamed about. And there I was running it in my own rig, which, so that really stands out. But there is so many. I enjoy every one of them. It's always something new. It's new. You meet different people. You definitely wheel at different places. We've done, I guess, every state but 3 now.
Wow.
And one of those being Hawaii.
Which is going to be more difficult to do, not only because of travel there, but there is not a lot of areas to wheel. Really? Yeah. You would think you could get onto those lava fields and everything, but you can't. I spent a Christmas there, 2 weeks, and hooked up on the Big Island with some people from the Big Island Jeep Club, and they took us out wheeling and went to different trails and different things that they'd done. And there's not a lot of stuff that would facilitate an event like UA.
Right. I guess it would have the cool factor of saying Hawaii. You know, the year we went to Alaska just a few years ago, there's a lot of outback, just, desolate areas to wheel. But far as rock crawling, as we enjoy it more so, there wasn't a lot of that, but just being in Alaska made up for it.
Right. True.
So that's maybe like Hawaii, but it's such a great experience, and this humble to be able to go or be a part of it, because like you said, a lot of people think about it and would dream about it, but you got to send your application in first to even up those chances.
And then they only pick a few from, because normally
Right.
it's industry, the guys that are helping like yourself, and then and Boyd and some of the others, and then they bring what they call the readers. There's only a handful of those every year. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we've had up to, I think, 5 readers one year, maybe six counting the return reader. So if you get chosen and able to attend being a reader, if you really have the right attitude, you will the brakes off the vehicle and just kind of fit in and don't whine. You really enjoy the whole week of wheeling. There's a good chance you get to return for a second year, and that's the return reader.
Okay. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So who's the since I know quite a few of the staff, I'll call them instead of the cronies. Who's the craziest? Is it Tom?
The craziest.
The one that's always say pushing the limits.
I would think Tom is like the ringleader of crazy, but there's a lot of followers of Tom. Vern just cracks me up. I mean, he is, and Fred is right there with him. He and Fred and Dave. I guess I can't just say one. I really enjoy their company. And Trent is unbelievable, and his knowledge and how he puts the trips together, and that little core, and being right there with Chris Durham. There's so much to learn from all those guys, and it's kind of like a get together for friends that we don't get to see each other that often, but that week we really catch up and enjoy our time together.
Excellent. And I know that every time you guys go someplace, like this last year, you guys were in Mason, and I know you went to K2, where Randy and Shane run the park there. Did you guys get over to Wolf Caves as well?
We did not.
Okay.
We did not, but the guys around here, we're trying to go somewhere every month, somewhere different. And I'm really pushing for us for our long trip. We're going to do one long trip, which would be, a 3-day wheeling trip. And I'm really pushing for Catempsy and Wolf Cave for us to go, do both in one trip.
Right. When do you think that long trip will be?
Well, I told them I don't know how it is in the spring. I imagine it's going to would be fine, but the time of year that we did the UA there was excellent. And I don't know if that was the weather was just abnormal or that was normal, but it was perfect wheeling, camping time of the year. So it may be even then.
Yeah, spring and fall are pretty good there in Central Texas, the hill country.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess it really depends if if a UA is going to happen again. It kind of, I'll have to plan it around that for sure.
Right. And UA is always around the same time of the year, right?
Well, it has been the last 4 years.
Okay.
It used to be in July. Uh, I wasn't home for the 4th of July for like 14 or 15 years straight.
Wow.
Yeah, because that it started that weekend or it ended that weekend of the 4th. And when Christian Hazel took over, him being a family man or more family oriented, he just moved it to away from the 4th of July, and it's been easing on into the fall time since then. And actually, the cooler temperatures have been welcome because we had some very, very hot UAs.
I can imagine.
You're driving up, an oven down the road to start with.
We call our XJ the wood stove because
Right.
there's no AC, and ever since we put that Atlas in, it's just like this big heat sink in there that just radiates.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. I've had that one year we went across Death Valley, the 127 degrees.
Oh Lord.
Oh, guys, we was taking our hoods off. I mean, it was great experience. I mean, not whining at all. I'm glad we all made it, and
And nobody died.
no one died. And what was so awesome, I guess you would say, or a great experience, was we went across there that day, and that evening we had jackets and gloves on where we ended up encamped. So the temperature change was unreal.
That's an interesting thing about the desert, especially that area, because you go from way below sea level and you can get up to 7, 8, 9,000 feet pretty easy.
Yeah, and that's what happened. It was crazy. We went from a desert, and then we dropped down into a valley to get supplies for that night and the next day, and it was just green grass and trees, and it was like you went over a mountain pass, went up out of the desert, and then dropped back in, definitely a higher elevation, and it was completely different. It's awesome to experience that, especially in an open rig, no windows, nothing, no doors. Just you get the full effect for sure.
Especially the heat.
Yes, especially the heat.
So have you taken your 7 then on all the UAs, or have you taken other vehicles?
I have taken other ones. I have a Bruiser chassis that I bought from Poison Spider, the early Poison Spider, when Clifton Slay owned it. I've taken it, and the trip to Alaska, I took my LJ. So, but it's only been on one. The LJ's only went to Alaska, and then the CJ started out strong, and when the buggy was finished in 2003, I really enjoyed it, but it's not comfortable at all, and it's real small for two people to live out of it for a week. It's difficult, but I enjoy wheeling it more so because I'm not concerned about the paint and the body like I would the CJ.
The LJ must have afforded you more room.
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, and Trent, I asked Trent, he said, if you ever was going to bring the LJ, the Alaska trip would be the trip you'd need to bring it on. And so since he said that, it was awesome. But like, if you have more room, you bring more things. And sure enough,
you still fill all the nook and crannies.
We did. I had that thing loaded down so much because we were prepared for rain every day. So I had these canopies all over it, and like I said, more room, you don't fill it up, and we did. Tom and I, but it was very comfortable driving. Heat and wipers and windows that you could roll up. So that
All the
part was,
comforts.
oh yeah, that I don't have in the CJ or the buggy for sure.
So let's talk about Off-Road Connection and the kind of work that you do there. What would you say your specialty is?
Well, I started out with Jeeps. Our specialty is the Jeep vehicle, and I started out doing a lot of fab work, a lot of spring overs years ago, 1-ton conversions and engine swaps, and that was in the CJ YJ era. Um, did a lot of axle swaps when the YJs came along for sure. Uh, and it's I guess I've done a little bit of everything, and I'm glad of it. We sell floor mats and we install bug shields, but I've never turned away any of that business. But our main vehicles are Jeeps, and it slowly got into trucks and lift kits, tires, wheels. I backed off of the fabricating a little bit. Uh, than than what we used to do. We used to have 3 or 4 projects in there at one time, and I just kind of slowed down to having one at a time. Not stopped doing it, but just backed off because all the JKs. I hate saying bolt-on stuff because it makes it sound so simple, but bolt-on things aren't that simple. Yeah, they're not as hard as a 5-3 swap, but the bolt-on, the accessories that come along with Jeeps, that's a big part of paying the bills.
Absolutely. I think the JK actually saved our industry
No doubt.
when they were released. And I mean, I think the aftermarket did a really good job of chasing that vehicle, and
Hmm.
by taking them and just figuring out every little thing that they could modify.
Oh, there's no doubt. I've mentioned that a time or two. If in '08, when the industry really took a hard hit, especially the truck world, the JK was released in '07, and if it wouldn't have been, it would have. I don't know what would have happened, but it did save the industry, hands down. I believe just what you said. I agree.
So Jeep, thank you for creating the JK, even though all the TJ and the CJ owners hated it. Um, I think most everybody has now migrated to it. Now everybody hates the JL or the Gladiator,
Right. Correct.
and now they're going to
Correct.
have more to hate with the 4xEs.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It's amazing how Jeep owners do that.
It is. It is. I've always compared a Jeep owner to the guys that rode motorcycles, the Harley owners. I mean, it's you've got to love the product to put up with it, just like the Harley guys did. It definitely was not the best motorcycle, but it didn't stop people from owning them. Just like the Jeep, it's never been the best, but that's what's fun about owning one. You can make them into the best vehicle and enjoy doing it.
Right. And then what was nice about all of the CJ, XJ, YJ, or no, all of those except for the XJ, I should say, is they all loved to hate on the XJ.
I know, in the XJ is such a good off-road vehicle.
Especially
I mean,
right out of the box. It's just
exactly. It was amazing here, and even the TJ as well, but the XJ with the longer wheelbase, when we were doing outings, we'd have a trail rides around here often, about every weekend. And then the XJ started showing up, and here we were with lockers and, spring overs and this and that and the other. And here comes this Cherokee coming right up behind us. And so did the TJ. It was definitely an eye opener as far as the coil springs and the 4-link, and that's what started the different modifications.
right. So, what's your favorite vehicle out of the Jeep lineup?
Well, favorite. Well, definitely partial to the older iron, the older CJ, and prior to. I think the best one out of the box, as far as longevity, simple modifications, a lot of less electronics, is the TJ era.
Right.
From 97 to 06, it seems to be holding its own in value and easy modifications. Like I said, out of the box, disconnect those sway bars and things would go.
True, especially with that Rubicon model.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So where do you see Off-Road Connection going over the next, say, 5 years?
Well, I hope we're still doing the same, along with something new. Said the industry in the last 3 or 4 years have blown up for us. The bolt-ons, like you'd mentioned, the JK. Hope we continue to be strong in that aspect. I hope I just keep everything the same. It's working. We only work 4 days a week. Where they're long days, but we get it. If we can get it done in 4 days, why not? I guess I'm happy right where it's at. I wish I could do better as far as websites and different things like that, but I don't know. It's hard for me to change, and I guess I could, but it would be a struggle for me to modernize the off-road connection. I guess I'm just stuck in how it's always been. With an honest wage and good work, and just continue to do that and enjoy it. Still, just keep enjoying it.
What would be your recommendation to, say, a 18-year-old just coming out of high school and wants to get into the off-road business? What would your recommendation be to that individual, whether it's man or woman, or identifies as whatever?
Yeah, I don't guess that would matter, as long as they showed up for work and care about their work. Take pride in what they do, and that goes along with anything. But as far as the off-road industry, just jump in and hang with it. Don't try to be the best at everything. Pick one or two things that you feel like you're good at and be the best at it. We've at the RC or the Off-Road Connection, we're real rounded. We've never say we specialize in anything, but I've decided years ago you can't be good at everything by no means. And I think a lot of shop owners or a lot of guys make mistakes trying to be that way. Just stick with what you know and be the best at it.
I agree. And your kids are now, you have more than just the one daughter, correct?
No, we just have one daughter. Okay. She's 21. She's like every dad's daughter. She's the best one. She's very enjoyable. She's an excellent driver off road. She doesn't do it as often as we used to. But when we do get together and go, she's good because she listens to her spotter. She's going to she wants to be something to do with the medical field. She's taking a break from college right now, but hopefully start back soon. She's not a online student at all. She needs to go to a classroom. And so she's taking a break right now for the COVID stuff.
And speaking of COVID, how did that affect your business? Did you guys have to shut down at all, or is it just a supply chain issue now? Or
We did not have to shut down at all. It fortunately it hasn't. No one has been infected at the shop during shop hours. Josh Sanders, that's been a longtime friend and employee. He was actually my co-driver this year on the UA. His wife actually came down with it, and he left the shop obviously at that point that he heard, and that was during the Christmas holidays. So he actually didn't miss but maybe 2 days of work, and then he was over it and came back. But as far as everyone else, we've been real fortunate, and I don't know what's kept us from being exposed, because I really hadn't changed a whole lot. I took out the stools in front of the counter. I put the hand sanitizer. I didn't require a mask. I don't know, just some common sense stuff. But as far as affecting it, we did slow down for 1 week. We actually had everything in the parking lot inside working on it for 1 day, if not 2. And by the end of the week, we were packed house again, and has been that way ever since. It hadn't stopped.
well, that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Before we started the recording, you talked about the supply chain and being able to get parts and stuff. Is that starting to ease up at all, or is it getting worse?
In some products, it's easing up a little bit. It's a little bit of false feeling about that, because for a while I could not get shocks. Shocks was holding up every lift kit that we was selling, and then all of a sudden we're able to get shocks with Fox and Bilstein, and now it's a little bit of a shortage. We do a lot of gear changes, and bearings and ring and pinions. I've used sources. I'm having to use a lot of different sources to keep the job going. But it's a big delay. We'll get 4 or 5 vehicles in, can't get parts, they get pushed out. We'll bring 4 or 5 more in. They need parts, we push them out, and then about the time I load the shop up again, parts come in for that first 5, then parts come in for that second 5. So it's a lot of juggling to keep everybody happy and actually get things out. Get vehicles back to their owners, and so we can get paid and continue on.
And is your clientele mostly from your area, or do you have clientele that come in? Do you have customers that come in from out of the area?
Both, mostly obviously the area, but we have a lot of guys that come a couple hours away. I've had customers bring their rigs up from Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, just really all over. But most it's local in the area.
Cool. Let's talk about Grey Rock. Is Grey Rock still open for business? You guys still putting on events out there?
We are not. Grey Rock, I guess, has been shut down for 5 years now, 6 maybe. Time flies, so maybe wrong on that. But there was, and in this state, you may own the land, but you do not own the mineral rights. And so the coal company decided to come back in and strip mine an area that they had stripped before, but they were able to go deeper, cost effective to be able to go deeper than they did 30 years ago. So that put a damper on the park, because it cut the park right in two. We're talking 2,200 acres, and this was probably about a 300 or 400 slice right down the middle. And it really, it made it dangerous, because in strip mining you have high walls. They call them high walls. They're 100, 200, 300 foot drop-offs. So with all the new mining going on, it was just too big of a risk. So we've had real small events. The rock bouncers have come and held an event there, but it wasn't for riding. It was just to come a spectating event to come watch
Right.
Cable Hill. But I still go down there. I still ride what trails are there, just to enjoy that area. It meant so much to me. I still enjoy just making the trails clear. If there's a tree down, I'll make a way through, but just mainly just get down there and enjoy the peace and quiet in the woods,
Right. So the how long does it take, or when do you guys find out what the next UA adventure is going to be, where it's going to be?
Well, that's been a big secret since day one, where the UA is going to be held. Even for us cronies, we do not get the location really, but for about 2 months prior, maybe some information will come out that there will be one, and then from there it trickles down. So we don't get a lot of info, which I kind of like that because it keeps it an adventure myself,
Right.
Even during the UA, I try to. Well, I do. We get the full route, downloaded to a tablet or to our phone, but I don't even look ahead to see where we're going because I just love not knowing. That's just a huge part of it is not knowing, and it's actually fun because you'll pull up, 26 vehicles completely take over a gas station, and the people there, it's the public, it's saying, where are y'all going? And nobody knows. It's like, we don't know, and that's a good part about it. They look at you kind of, funny, but he said that guy right over there, he knows where we're going. That was Christian and Trent, with points, and we're just following him. And that's a fun part about it.
Let's walk through a typical day on a UA. You guys, let's say not the first day, but let's say like third day. You've already wheeled at least one park or one area, and you're getting ready to move on. What's the day look like?
Well, generally you have an early driver's meeting. If it's happened to be a camp night, you're actually up early that morning, breaking camp. You have a driver's meeting. Generally you have about 15 to 30 minutes after the driver's meeting to be ready to pull out. The itinerary is given to you, the night before, prior to getting to the campsite. You're going to need, one breakfast, one lunch, 2 suppers or whatever, and we stop and get that supply prior to that morning. And we take off, generally not on the best roads, usually dirt, a lot of dirt, but we get to see things that people generally don't see, which I definitely enjoy. Even around here, when I go somewhere, I always try to come back a different way just to see different sights. So I guess that's what I enjoy most about it is seeing things that people don't get to see or wouldn't take the time to go see. And we may just go 200 miles that day, but it takes us 12 hours. And it's because we're seeing things that you generally wouldn't see.
We just drove from Minneapolis to Las Vegas, and until we got to Laramie, Wyoming, we took no interstate and no major highway. It was all back roads, frontage roads, dirt roads.
Dang.
And that was so cool.
I bet it was.
It took us 5 days. And then we had to jump on the interstate once we got to western Colorado and got down into, well, to rifle. And then that's when we took the 70 to the 15 and into Vegas, because we only had that one day to do it.
Right.
And we just run out of time. We had planned on making it even longer and going down through Grand Junction and then hitting, some of the trails that cut across into Utah and then down into Nevada, but we just ran out of time.
That's cool. One goal is to have time one day to not be on a schedule. I mean, you're always will be on a schedule of some sort, but the UA, I generally don't have a lot of time prior. So we drive all night, or we get there and the UA starts, and then we turn around and then drive home. But I'm looking forward to those days I can take some extra days and do what you're talking about. Just see the sights, hit a trail or a park or whatever it may be, because I enjoy that aspect of all of the UAs, is just going somewhere I never would have planned to go, and there I am there doing it.
Right.
And I'm ready. I'm looking forward to those days where I can have extra time. But being a business owner and a small business owner, it's hard to be away from work.
It is, because if you're not there, it's not generating income.
Right. And it's expensive. You're not, this last year I chose to close, and I've done that before. So I closed because I generally have had office help, and it was in between having someone there. So if I'm not there, there's no one to answer the phone or greet the customers or order anything. The guys, I could have lined up some work for them out there, but it's being away from work is expensive. Everybody got an extra paid vacation during the UA. I was out spending money, definitely wasn't making any money, but I wouldn't change a thing by no means. But it's hard, to get away.
So how many more years are you going to continue to do this? Do you have an exit strategy?
I don't see myself stopping. I'd like to see myself not having to be there, every day. It's hard to say that, but the property that the building's on, it'll be worth something, and hopefully it'll be worth a whole lot more in 10 years. I'll soon be 60. So strategy, maybe to continue doing what we're doing, but maybe have a little bit more extra time to do something other than be at that shop,
Yep.
My wife's retired, but she's gone back to work. She's retired from the school system, and she went back to work in the school system. And she said she's going to continue until she can't physically, and her job is very physical. She works with the special needs kids. So I imagine by the time she gives up, I'll be about ready to throttle back, and maybe we can have some extra time to take those back roads.
It's definitely worthwhile.
For sure.
I
sure.
think that's one of the things that putting on the event series that we've put on, whether it was the off-road racing, the rock crawling, the rock racing, whatever, what it's afforded us to do was the travel, but especially the last 10, 11 years when we made it full time, we were able to get on the road, live on the road, and take the time between the events to actually experience what America, has to offer.
Right. And from years ago doing the Jeep Jamborees, I mean, I'm talking like in 85, 86. We were actually able to go out of town and enjoy different states then. And I guess that's what I still enjoy, is the time away or the time traveling. And I guess that's why the UA's been such a huge part of it, is going different places. Even though it's just a week or maybe 10 days, Alaska was 26 days away from work. I've never had done that. Yes. And we didn't mess around. We didn't cut the truck off until we got into Canada, which was about 32 hours. It was Chris Durham, myself, and Tom in the truck. And that was the longest time away from work, for 26 days. My daughter and Debbie was able to come up and enjoy Alaska prior to the event ending. And then after the event, us three, a few excursions, sightseeing. And I guess that's the only year after the UA I hung out instead of jumping in the truck and busting tail to get back to work.
So that trip, the Alaska trip, it's pretty iconic, or epic, you might say, kind of an adventure. Where did it end up finishing at?
It started in Wasilla, and then it actually looped back around to Wasilla.
Oh, okay.
It was a big circle, and we hit it at a good and bad time. It was bad for Alaska because it was a lot of forest fires because it had been so dry, but it did not rain, and we had 0 mosquitoes.
Wow.
So it was, yes. And that made it even more special. The host family there was just unreal. That whole Winnegar family, the 2 brothers that went on the UA, attended the UA with us, just this awesome family. Originally moved from Kentucky, I think it was Kentucky, pretty sure it was Kentucky, to Alaska. And they've been there ever since. And it's a great family.
And when you're sightseeing with your family, did you go down into Anchorage? Because Wasilla's just north, isn't it? I think
that's right. That's correct. I think Wasilla's about an hour maybe outside Anchorage. We did not. We took the railroad and went into a couple of towns. We went dog sledding, but without snow. The sled had wheels. That was a great experience. We took a river boat up the river, just sightseeing. I mean, it was just a great all around experience. We rented a couple of bicycles and rode around. It was definitely, I want to go back. And hopefully when I do go back, and I would drive again, but I would want a month to get there, not 6 days.
So did you have any wildlife encounters?
We did. We saw every animal there was, I believe. More so in Canada than Alaska. But in Alaska, we saw the moose, badgers. I don't think we saw bear in Alaska, but we saw where bear had been at our campsite prior to us getting there. One morning, a moose went through our campsite. It was fun. I got to fish. I wanted to catch a fish in Canada, and I wanted to catch a trout, a fish in Alaska, and we were able to do that. And that was another check mark. We were fly fishing, enjoyed that. There's just so much to do up there, but you got to enjoy the outdoors to enjoy Alaska for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, cool. So is there anything that we haven't touched bases on, or do you want to tell any good stories about Vern or Trent or Rick or Christian or any of those, or Chris Durham?
Oh,
I think Christian and Rick are the only ones I haven't out of the names I just mentioned that I have not interviewed yet. So maybe something about one of those two that I can make sure that they know is coming.
there's so many good times, good stories. I don't know if I should. I don't know. I may not get invited to come back if I tell all the stories. But
No.
there definitely has been some great times, and some good friendships made out of this industry. Meeting people just like you, for instance, when you and Josh and y'all came to Grey Rock. That was. No, we hadn't seen each other. We haven't spoken in a long time, but here we are speaking. It
is special. The friendships that we have made in this industry by visiting everybody and hanging out and having that like interest of wheeling has made my life since I turned 42 really special.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And it's hard to explain to people because through Debbie's work, we have a lot of friends outside the off-road world, the industry, and we're going Jeep riding that weekend. You're doing what? It's just hard to explain how good of a hobby, industry it really is. They see the videos, they miss the riding part of it is definitely enjoyable. I still enjoy it, but the time spent at the campground at night, in the mornings, during the day, away from the trail is just as important, or it's just as fun as going over a big rock.
Oh, I agree.
It's the whole pie. It's just not a piece of it.
Excellent. Well, Keith, I want to say thank you so much for agreeing to be interviewed. I know that you were concerned about talking about your life and doing this interview, but I think you did a great job, and I really appreciate you coming on board and spending some time with us and talking to our listeners. And I think people will enjoy it.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity, and you're correct. I was very nervous, but you made it easy. One thing I could think of when you was asking me to do it was on the UAs when Michael Harrington, one of the video producers that filmed the UAs for years, right when I would at the wrong moment, I say, but it was at the correct moment, but wrong moment for me. He would stick a camera in my face and he'd want to ask me all these questions, and I just would freeze up, and I had a really hard time doing that sometimes. And that's all I could think about when you asked me to do it. But you made it very easy, and I appreciate the opportunity again.
Well, I appreciate you spending the time. And so say hello to the family for me, and I hope your business is all that it can be and successful, and that you get more time to enjoy the rest of the world.
I appreciate that. And you as well. And enjoy that boat. Enjoy that salt life.
Yeah, salt life. That's today we've got rain, and it's kind of drizzly out, but tomorrow it'll be back into the 70s, and I mean, it's not real bad. I mean, we're at 66, 67 degrees.
Nice.
But it's any day on the water is a good day.
Oh, I agree. Just looking at water, just watching it.
Yes, so true.
It's very enjoyable.
All right. Keith, thank you so much. And, have a great life. We'll talk to you later.
All right, Rich. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoy these podcasts, please give us a rating. Share some feedback with us via Facebook or Instagram, and share our link among your friends who might be like-minded. Well, that brings this episode to an end. Hope you enjoyed it. We'll catch you next week with Conversations with Big Rich. Thank you very much.